Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm PK Light. I'm going to be doing a deck profile really quick here on Turtonator or Choreo. That is a little something I cooked up from Dragon's Majesty. We have Turtonator doing Explosive Jet. Discard any amount of fire energy from your Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage for each card you discarded in this way. So if you read the text, it's not you're not forced to get rid of all your energy. You just remove what you need, and it can come from anywhere in your bench, which is pretty useful. That you can possibly keep Turtonator active with enough to do a lot of damage by removing energy from your bench, which isn't actually something I often have to do with this deck, but it is nice if you need it. So anyways, Oranguru. We're playing two of these guys just for some consistency if we ever get some smaller hands. Also a possible attacker, Psychic, with 3 energies, could, actually come around and do 120 damage. So we have Oricorio. This is sort of the special secret sauce to this deck. Is without it, I don't actually think this deck would be very good at all. Captivating Salsa is just super awesome at controlling your opponent's bench, really throwing them off their game. It's just like really difficult for them to somehow control the flow of the game without tripping themselves up in some way. So yeah, like I said, I don't know, I'm trying to explain it. So yeah, obviously nobody really wants to be confused, and only 2 damage counters per turn is not a lot, but it does soften the board up everywhere. So instead of having to discard way too many energies for Turtonator to get the one-hit KOs, you get all these softened up Pokemon from Oricorio, and then you typically don't ever have to do much more than 150 damage with Turtonator. But if you need to take out something bigger like a stage 1, you key away on there and you get 4 energies, and like I said, you may have already softened up with Oricorio. Yeah, really annoying Pokemon for your opponent, and I'm sorry to anybody who faces this deck. That's just kind of the way it works. Victini is a new addition. When I first designed this deck, I didn't have this card. I still had an active trade, and it hadn't gone through. It did eventually, so that was awesome. But yeah, I had Shining Lugia in its place, so it would basically Shining Lugia, or no, sorry, not Lugia. Sorry, it was Shining Ho-Oh. Sorry, not Lugia. Shining Ho-Oh has the ability that it's like got a built-in Wishful Baton. If he gets knocked out, 2 energies from it end up going to any of your Pokemon on the bench. If you have a Wishful Baton on that, you can do up to 5 energies possibly stored on it that could be then distributed to one of your Pokemon and do like a massive amount of damage. But I didn't find it was very useful, and that was sort of always a placeholder for the Victini. And yeah, this thing late game can do a huge amount of damage and get you all your energy back. We're playing 3 Acrobike, consistency, just getting through your deck. I chose to go with 2 energy recycle systems because just the ability to put an energy from your discard back into your hand is great. By playing 2 of these, if that's not necessary, you can get up to 6 of these energies back into your back into your hand, and also there's Victini. So yeah, lots of ways to get energy back. We have 1 Field Blower to get rid of things such as metal frying pans and bodybuilding dumbbells, which are just a constant pain in the butt for some of these decks right now. Anyways, moving on, we have a Nest Ball. We have 2 Rescue Stretchers to constantly keep these Oricorios and possibly Turtonator, but usually more often than not, you just want to keep those Oricorios coming and keep them under a confusion lock. So we go to switch, obvious reasons. We just want to be able to have ultimate control over our opponent. So if we do dump all our energy off a Turtonator, we are able to just grab a switch, go back into Oricorio, keep Turtonator alive, and then keep the confusion lock going. So we need lots of ways to switch out for that. So that's why we're also playing a couple Tate and Lizas down here. Standard for Ultra Ball, we're playing 4 Shrine. Got to hit those numbers, especially on the GX. So, anything helps, and Shrine is super powerful at the moment. Might be most OP card in the game. Who knows? We have a Copycat. We have 4 Cynthia, pretty standard there. 3 Guzma, you know, board control, as I said. The Kiawe, we have 3 of these. I think 4 would just be a bit overkill. Would probably never be able to get the 4th one off anyways. So 3 Kiawe seems to be a pretty good number. 3 Lily, keep our hands big. And also we have 2 Tate and Lizas, especially for the switch ability. Like I said, when we're dumping lots of energy, we have 3 retreat costs, and we don't want to just lose them every time we put one out there. So yeah, like I said, we can potentially keep the Oricorio shenanigans going while we constantly rebuild our deck. The escape board is pretty much for the Oricorio, you know, just in case we have any Guzma plays we want to do, we can, you know, get the free retreat going. Let me see, we have 3 Wishful Baton. This is extremely important. I decided when I was building this deck that probably the best way is to just not lose your energy at all. Like to have to get it back from the discard can be quite tricky, especially getting large amounts of it at one time onto a Pokemon. So which is exactly what Wishful Baton does. It's an item card. It charges up the 3 energies, and if you end up having to lose a Turtonator when it's only 2 energies into a power up on the bench and they Guzma, well, at least those 2 are going to go back onto another Turtonator, which may have 1 energy. If not, you add another, and then you're hitting 150. So I mean, like I said, with the Oricorio going on, everything's softened up, and that 150 could be an automatic, you know, 1-hit KO on a GX. So Wishful Baton is extremely important, even if they have a couple field blowers. We're playing 3 Wishful Baton, so you know, try and play them wisely. Don't play them too early, so they just get, you know, wasted. But anyways, 12 energy seems to be the right amount. I always seem to hit the numbers I need with that. So, and there's really no other space in this build that I can find anyways. So that's it. Probably talked a little bit here. I think I'm going to jump into a couple matches. Like, not going to play the whole thing, just going to play a few of the highlight parts, and so we can see what we're talking about with basically the bigger meta decks that I was sort of talking about on Twitter before, and sort of how this deck is capable of dealing with them. Alright, so we're just going to jump into that now. Alright, so here we are. We have our first match. We have a Rayquaza Vikavolt deck. So as you see, the Shrine has been putting in huge amounts of work. As somebody who also plays Ray Vic, I know that most decks don't play any Field Blower, so I basically at this point had gotten rid of all my other Shrines just to thin out deck, and this was my last one. And yeah, just putting lots of work in. It's an unfortunate part of our meta right now, but you can do, you know, 1 of 2 things. You can embrace it, or you can fight against it. But it seems like at the moment, it's not a bad thing to be using Shrine. So here we are. We have no GXs, as you know. We have our Turtonators, we have our Oricorio, and we have the Darmanitan. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Anyways, that will not be in any of the other builds. But I still felt like showcasing this first match because it has the same setup using Oricorio and Turtonator. So our opponent is just stacking tons and tons of damage, and I have noticed at this point that most of their energy is spent. So in order to stall out, in order to create a knockout situation with the Shrine, I use Vikavolt to kind of stall it out again. And as you see, we are heading towards knockout territory. This is kind of an important way that this deck works, is that you're going to be constantly trying to target Pokemon that have high retreat costs, that are most likely not main attackers, and therefore causing them to retreat a lot of their energies just to get their attackers back out. So as you see, at this point, I need 4 cards, and we have a 160 on the Rayquaza over there. We have 140. We're going to add another damage counter to each one of those on the following turn, which will make us set up for a double knockout here. So we are going to be ending this game. All we have to do is bring out our Tapu Lele, knock it out. We'll complete our turn, and we'll let Rayquaza give us the last 2 cards, and then we're done. So that was Rayquaza. Definitely a huge disadvantage to that build is not using any field blowers and just being really susceptible to Shrine. So we have our next meta matchup here. We have Garbodor. This is more closer to the deck that I have completed and am currently going to be keeping and staying this way. I have moved away from Darmanitan as a way to charge energy because it was just too much to set up. And I figured that using a combination of Wishful Baton and Kiawe and was probably the best solution. So the one thing I want to point out here is that so far in this match, I have only used 1 item. This deck can function quite well on literally almost no items. There's 10 draw supports in here, and there's also Kiawe for charging energy. So really, if you're smart, you play 0 energy, and you just keep using Oricorio to control the board, and Garbodor has, very little chance at winning. So it's all about control. And my opponent had made some decisions to try and flip against the confusion that did not work out very well for him. So we have now 1 more prize card to go. As you see, they have 1 extremely hurt Buzzle. That's their only energy on the board. I believe at this point, almost all their other energies have gone into the discard. And as you know, these any special energies right now are pretty hard to get back out of discard, seeing as how special charge is gone and all. So yeah, that's not a problem we have with Oricorio or anything. We are using just all basic energies, no enhanced hammers. So at this point, I'm pretty sure he realizes that it's pretty much game over, but I don't really understand the decision to bring the Diancie out. I think they may have just been giving me the win. Otherwise, probably putting Buzzle in the active would have been smart. I did not have energy for Turtonator, but I'm sure I could have worked this out somehow. Oh yeah, I remember part of the reason my hand is getting so big too is that I'm just waiting to hit the energy recycler. I didn't hit either of my energy recyclers this game. And so I must have had maybe 1 in the prize here. I don't really actually remember what I got from the prize, and 1 was like right at the bottom of my deck. So I really had no way to get any more energy without getting those. Yeah. And there we go. I got the energy recycle system from my prize. So we're on to our next deck here, Garchomp. I did face a Garchomp deck twice using this. I faced 2 Garchomp decks so far. I lost against the first one, but that's okay. We did a little tweaking. We came back strong. I've sort of, as I was playing, figured out where the weaknesses are in this deck. And as you see with Turtonator, it can hit for 150 quite easily, and which is all you need to take out a Garchomp. However, the real trickiness to this deck is the fact that Garchomp has 0 retreat. I used the idea of them milling their own energies off, retreating, to try and get out their active attackers. So if they don't need to retreat, if they don't have to take away any energy to retreat their Pokemon, then basically they're just going to keep smashing me over and over and over again. So my only recourse to this was to control any Pokemon that are not attackers that do require some sort of retreat cost, and basically just wait for opportunities to come up with Turtonator or Victini where I can get 1-hit KOs on their Garchomps. because if I can make that happen, then obviously, you know, there's less to worry about. So I believe, no, we're still got some more to go here. Something sort of happens in this match, and it becomes somewhat annoying. So like I said, right now, focusing on keeping the Garchomps out of play. They can do nothing but just one-hit KO probably anything I have. Even though I have 110 on the Oranguru and the Turtonator, if they hit a Cynthia, as you know, they probably have 3 in their hand, probably Palpad as well. So Oricorio susceptible to just a regular Royal Blades. Yep, they're going to try and set up another Garchomp over here. Now, my opponent has quite the advantage, having the ability to pull 2 of whatever card he wants from his deck every turn. But still, Oricorio, it just keeps tripping them up every time. I feel like Garchomp is a pretty strong deck at the moment. Its ability to shrine GXs, it you know, hits big numbers. You know, like I said, the combination of Lucario, taking any cards you want directly into your hand every turn. But if you don't have enough switches or Guzma or Escape Rope, then I guess it's just not going to work out for you. I've played a lot with the idea of control decks over, you know, my span of playing this game, and I have to think this may be one of the most annoying troll kind of, I don't know, control deck that I've ever built. So it has won quite consistently. I believe I've won 4 out of 6 matches with it, and that's during the testing and building phase. So you can't really call it a fluke if it keeps winning. So, and I've taken some of my wins to some bigger decks. The 2 losses I did take was to a Garchomp deck and to a Garbodor Banette deck. And Banette basically just ran through my whole team because it could just move around damage counters, and it could hit quite easily the numbers to knock out all my Pokemon in one shot. So obviously can't win them all, but yeah, Banette was definitely one that that this deck is susceptible to losing to quite easily. Okay, so what sort of happened there? If that flip had gone the other way, Vulpix would have been knocked out, and he would have been able to bring a couple of Garchomp, and he would have done a knockout on Oricorio, and that would put me down to 1 prize card for them and really have me against the ropes. So very, very happy that that flip didn't go through, because I have now realized that basically Vulpix is no longer a viable option. I do not want to knock it out. Like I said, I do not have the firepower to get 3 more prize cards right now. So yeah, the only way I can win is to just keep controlling the board. So, which brings us to this point in the match. So with quite a bit of time left, see, my opponent's only got 5 minutes 40 something seconds left. I'm like 16. But what I'm getting at here is my opponent is now stuck. I have basically realized at this point that they don't have an ability to bring their Lucario out of the active. So I've just keep hitting done. And to sort of, I've cut part of this out and sort of sped it up to just to sort of give you an idea. If you look at the timer counter on my opponent there, yeah, I don't know if what it was exactly that caused them to just keep hitting done about like 30 times, but yeah, so my opponent let the counter run right out to 0, and it took about 9 minutes of pressing done in order to complete that battle. So not like the best way to win, but I mean, it is a strategy. It does work if you can pull it off properly. It just takes a little bit of understanding where your opponent is at with their ability to, move cards around or whatever. So if I was luckily able to pull that out, and even if they did continue to judge or whatever another time, I still had that Tate and Liza that could have reset another 5 cards into my hand. So yeah, there was really no chance at losing at the end there. However, having a 9-minute pressing done battle until the timer ran out was definitely not something I enjoyed. So this may be one of the best battles. This was the last battle I had before I started to make this video. I had come home from work and I had got the Victini trade went through, and so like the last couple battles here, I've had my Victini final setup that I'm pretty happy with. And like I said, things kind of got a little ugly with the Lucario Garchomp, but that's not how all matches go, and this is a great example of that. This deck does have firepower, and it can knock out big Pokemon. It's just, sometimes how the cards are played out, or how you need to handle your opponent's deck. In this case, I need firepower. I have a Glaceon staring me down, turn 2, DCE, Water Energy, ready to start throwing 30 damage on everything on the bench, and that's only a few turns away from getting a massive amount of knockouts from my opponent here. However, not to fear, this deck does have the ability to explode quite fast, especially when you have a Kiawe sitting in hand and just a few Turtonators there. So if you do the math, that's 200 damage. My opponent is probably realizing that right now and has basically the ability to knock out my Oricorio, but not necessarily the Turtonator. Recognizing the fact that it could be game over next turn, bringing out a Vulpix. Yeah, so we are just going to keep watching what's going on here. We definitely have options. And they're going to throw 30 on to that Turtonator. Not a surprise. So, great. We are set up. We can get ourselves a KO on that Glaceon. Grab a couple, even out the prize count. Bring out that next Turtonator. Keep ourselves, give ourselves a chance to build one up without getting one-hit KO'd by the Glaceon. And we're just going to dump that whole amount of fire there. Okay, so there's a stage 1 Pokemon. That could have been a Zoroark, whatever. 210 damage. Definitely hitting good numbers. Now we're sitting here with nothing in hand. And Challenger Ben is definitely going to be doing everything in his power to put an end to this. The sniping ability from Glaceon was troublesome. And as you will see, they're about to bring out Ninetales GX, and again, a troublesome situation because the sniping ability, and our opponent will judge us. We had quite a large hand with some options, but no energy, so, at least we have an energy in hand. We have a Guzma, it's not going to do anything at the moment, or at least we can increase our hand size using Lily. And picking up a Kiawe off that Lily was definitely a big help. Getting that energy recycle system to make sure all those energies are there that we need. Energy recycle system is not great for Victini, but Victini is not as important as keeping your Kiawes charged up. So by the end of the match, we'll still find ourselves with lots of energy in the discard anyways. Okay. So, best course of action. Get ourselves 4 more energy, fresh Turtonator, and we're sitting on the Tate and Liza. So we got the Oko on the Glaceon. We're looking at another one right here, unless our opponent has any ability to grab another Pokemon, but they don't, so we're going to give them the well played. We'll bring out our Turtonator, and that's the game. Even with low HP and the ability to snipe, it still wasn't enough. We were able to grab those 2 big Okos from the Turtonator and get the W. Well, that's it. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.